Darn. Then we're reading those dissertations. I'm like, hey, we got another stream to go.
I know. We got to get these going.
I know. But we made it. Darn. Then we're reading those dissertations.
That's it.
That's the one.
Now the whole community saw that.
Stop video.
Okay, panelists, let's go ahead and do a mic check real quick here. So unmute yourself and let's see if we.
All right, how do I sound?
Good, good to go.
Fabulous.
Hello, Kim's here.
I think you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
Dawn's here.
Are you
Awesome.
able to hear me? Hi, Dawn.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Kath.
Sarah, I know you're between some technology there. That's okay. You need to keep the camera off. No big deal tonight. But we can hear you, right?
Okay, great.
Good, good, good. All right. About one more minute here and let's get started.
All right.
All right. Good evening, BBH CSD families, students, friends, and community members. We are so glad you can join us tonight. Welcome to our Learning and Leading Town Hall. My name is David Martin. I am the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Collaboration. What we're going to do at this point, go around our panelists. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself one by one. I'm going to call you out on the screen as you appear. So, Dawn, why don't you go ahead and state your name and your role in the district.
Hi, I'm Dawn Ferrante. I am a math teacher at the high school. I teach Algebra 1 and Honors Geometry this year.
Kathy Schwen.
I'm Kathy Schwen. I'm a K-5 instructional coach here in Brecksville Broadview Heights.
Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Taylor. I'm a pre-K to 12 instructional coach in special education.
I knew I'd make you smile with that. Joelle.
Never cease to amaze me, Dave. I'm Joelle Megger. I'm superintendent of Brecksville Broadview Heights City Schools.
Dina.
Hello, I'm Dina Wilson. I teach 7th grade language arts at the middle school.
Scott.
Hi, my name is Scott Kinkoff. I am an instructional coach, grade 6-12, and also work tech integration throughout the district.
Shirley.
Hey everyone, I'm Shirley Bullard Tishy. I am a general education teacher in 4th grade, currently at Chippewa and Highland, but I teach online this year.
And Sarah.
Hi, I am Sarah Behrens. I am a high school science teacher, and I currently teach academic and honors level chemistry.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into our agenda quickly. As you might notice, tonight's theme, there is a bicycle theme. I'll remove my helmet now. Yes, we have a bicycle theme today. It's going to run throughout our presentation, but you'll see things right now on the agenda such as learning and stamina. The teacher panel, if I could bring your attention down here at 6:25. This really is the meat of the presentation and the town hall. This is where we're going to get some really rich, deep, and meaningful dialogue about those really effective strategies and mindsets and philosophies that our teachers are using in the classroom. There'll be time for some Q&A that Joelle and I will entertain. That comes from the survey that we put out, and we want to thank those in advance for submitting those questions, and then some closing remarks from Joelle. All right. Well, we wouldn't have a real town hall about learning and leading if we didn't start off with a question. And let's check this question out. This is only going to take about a minute, minute and a half. But I want you to read this question, and I want you to think about, when was the last time you learned something new? Think about that. Shouldn't be hard. We're in a pandemic. We're learning new things every day. You, at home, when was the last time you learned something new? You got it? How did you learn it? Was it immediate? Did you learn it right away? How about this? Did you achieve perfection the very first time you learned it? How long did it take you to feel as if you mastered that new thing that you learned? And finally, did you have to adapt? And when you adapt, did it make you feel a bit uncomfortable? Folks, we're in a pandemic and we are learning and trying to build that stamina every day. Learning is a process. Learning always involves failure and adaptation. Learning and perseverance are synonymous. Stamina. Stamina is that ability to sustain prolonged physical and mental effort. Kind of hard to do these days. Stamina requires endurance and persistence. Stamina is kind of like the picture. It's getting your groove back, right? You're increasing that ability, that endurance, and learning is that flow. Bottom line, folks, learning requires stamina. We're going to watch a video. I guarantee you, this video is going to change the way you think about learning and relearning. Listen in.
Hey, it's me, Destin. Welcome back to Smarter Every Day. You've heard people say it's just like... Hey, it's me, Destin. Welcome back to Smarter Every Day. You've heard people say it's just like riding a bike, meaning it's really easy and you can't forget how to do it, right? But I did something. I did something that damaged my mind. It happened on the streets of Amsterdam, and I got really scared, honestly. I can't ride a bike like you can anymore. Before I show you the video of what happened, I need to tell you the backstory. Like many 6-year-olds with a MacGyver mullet, I learned how to ride a bike when I was really young. I had learned a life skill, and I was really proud of it. Everything changed, though, when my friend Barney called me 25 years later. Where I work, the welders are geniuses, and they like to play jokes on the engineers. He had a challenge for me. He had built a special bicycle, and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left. I thought this would be easy, so I hopped on the bike ready to demonstrate how quickly I could conquer this.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Destin Sandlin. First attempt riding the bicycle.
So the faster I go, the better.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. You can see that I'm laughing, but I'm actually really frustrated. In this moment, I had a really deep revelation. My thinking was in a rut. This bike revealed a very deep truth to me. I had the knowledge of how to operate the bike, but I did not have the understanding. Therefore, knowledge is not understanding. Look, I know what you're probably thinking. Destin's probably just an uncoordinated engineer and can't do it. But that's not the case at all. The algorithm that's associated with riding a bike in your brain is just that complicated. Think about it. Downwards force on the pedals, leaning your whole body, pulling and pushing the handlebars, gyroscopic precession in the wheels. Every single force is part of this algorithm. And if you change any one part, it affects the entire control system. I do not make definitive statements that often, but I'm telling you right now, you cannot ride this bicycle. You might think you can, but you can't. I know this because I'm often asked to speak at universities and conferences, and I take the bike with me. It's always the same. People think they're going to try some trick or they're just going to power through it. It doesn't work. Your brain cannot handle this. For instance, this guy, I offered him $200 just to ride this bike 10 feet across the stage. Everybody thought he could do it.
No, you didn't understand. So, this way. All right, so, whenever you're ready. No, you have to keep your feet on. All right, let's do it again. Like, you gotta start rolling at least. There you go. Keep your feet on the pedal. Go. Go right on. Keep your feet on the pedals. Yep. All right, one more time.
Once you have a rigid way of thinking in your head, Sometimes you cannot change that, even if you want to. So here's what I did. It was a personal challenge. I stayed out here in this driveway and I practiced about 5 minutes every day. My neighbors made fun of me. I had many wrecks, but after 8 months, this happened. One day I couldn't ride the bike and the next day I could. It was like I could feel some kind of pathway in my brain that was now unlocked. It was really weird though. It's like there's this trail in my brain, but if I wasn't paying close enough attention to it, my brain would easily lose that neural path and jump back onto the old road it was more familiar with. Any small distractions at all, like a cell phone ringing in my pocket, would instantly throw my brain back to the old control algorithm and I would wreck. But at least I could ride it. My son is the closest person to me genetically, and he's been riding a normal bike for 3 years. That's over half his life. I wanted to know how long it would take him to learn how to ride a backwards bike, so I told him if he learned how to ride a backwards bike, he could go with me to Australia and meet a real astronaut. Are you going to give up?
No. Go ahead. This is how it starts. Look at this. This is such a big deal. Get up. You got it. Did you see his brain get it? So in how many weeks have we been doing this? 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, he did something that took me 8 months to do, which demonstrates that a child has more neuroplasticity, am I even saying that right, than an adult.
It's clear from this experiment that children have a much more plastic brain than adults. That's why the best time to learn a language is when you're a young child.
All right, today's bike log. I can ride smooth, I can ride fast. I'm thinking the experiment is over. Okay, now I'm in Amsterdam, a city that has more bicycles than people. The question is, can I ride a normal bike now? I mean, I've spent all this time unlearning how to ride a bike. If I go back and try to ride a normal one, will my brain mess up? So I've tweeted a Smarter Everyday meetup, if you will, and I'm going to see if somebody brings a bicycle, and I'm going to try to ride a normal bike. It's backwards. It's backwards.
This was one of the most frustrating moments of my life. I had ridden a normal bike since I was 6, but in this moment, I couldn't do it anymore. I had set out to prove that I could free my brain from a cognitive bias. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that all I proved is that I could only redesignate that bias.
So what you're not seeing is just a group of people here looking at me, looking at the strange American that can't ride a bike because they think I'm dumb. But I'm actually 2 levels deep into this because I've learned and unlearned. All right.
After 20 minutes of making a fool out of myself, suddenly my brain clicked back into the old algorithm. I can't explain it, but it happened in a very specific moment.
I got it. I'm back. Oh, click. Hold on, click. I got it. Okay, there it is. There was the moment. Okay, I can ride a bike.
I tried to explain this to the people around me, and they just didn't get it. They thought I was faking the previous 20 minutes, and I couldn't get anybody to believe me.
That looked like I faked that, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just a fake. You think I'm faking. You don't believe me.
It looks so weird. You were like,
You think I'm lying, don't you? I'm not lying.
I felt like the only person on the planet who had ever unlearned how to ride a bike, and I couldn't articulate it to anyone because everybody just knew that you can't forget how to ride a bike. So I learned 3 things from this experiment. I learned that welders are often smarter than engineers. I learned that knowledge does not equal understanding. And I learned that truth is truth, no matter what I think about it. So be very careful how you interpret things, because you're looking at the world with a bias, whether you think you are or not. I'm Destin. Getting smarter every day. Have a good one.
Okay, if you want to.
Okay, we're going to present a graphic that's going to go with the bicycle theme here, but I think it's going to start becoming pretty clear about this learning process regarding hybrid and online. So check it out, everyone. All learners are adapting to learning in a hybrid and online context. And when I say all learners, that's not just all student learners, that's all adult learners. You at home, parents, educators here at work, all learners. We're all learners. All learners are growing in their ability to learn in hybrid and online with support. We all need that helping hand. We all need a little push and a nudge and some confidence. All learners use a variety of learning strategies and tech tools proficiently. So as you can see, it's progressing. But check this one out. All learners using multiple learning strategies and tech tools within a variety of learning content. So that's kind of the elephant in the room, right? Are we all collectively at that last stage? Are we doing tricks on our bicycles? Absolutely not. We're all at different levels because we've never done this before. We've never done a pandemic. We've never done hybrid. We've never done online, a mix of the two. So we're learning. We're all learners. All right, instructional practices. What about instructional practices? It's all about building a sense of community, student engagement, small groups, short bursts of instruction followed by independent practice. We saw that in that video, the biking video. I mean, it took his son 2 weeks due to that neuroplasticity. He's a little bit more, has a little more neuroplasticity than the adult. But Dad, it took him 8 months. Specific feedback from teachers and open-ended questions. How about authentic learning? Here and at home, I know we are all trying to engage students to encounter and solve real-world problems. Teachers trying to find every opportunity to give meaningful feedback to authentic student learning. We have to maximize that time we have in front of students, particularly in the hybrid model or the short bursts of time we have with them online. Teacher collaboration. Upfront and ongoing professional learning. Grade levels and departments meet regularly to maintain equity in content pacing. Very, very important. We want to maintain that equity, whether you're online, whether you're in person. And vertical curriculum meetings to communicate possible gaps due to the COVID interruption. All right, everyone, this is the one. If you don't take away anything, if you didn't like the video, if you didn't like my helmet, if you don't like what's going on so far, if you haven't learned anything going on so far, this is the one you got to take away: quality versus quantity. Check it out. More is not better. Deep, meaningful learning content supersedes the number of minutes on a schedule. Think about that. It is quality, not quantity. We can have deep, meaningful learning in 20 minutes or nothing going on in an hour and 20 minutes. Quality of learning focuses on the mastery of standards and understanding, not simply knowledge. Remember, knowledge does not equate understanding. All right, best part of the town hall, the teacher panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have the coaches facilitate the questions with our teachers. I will stop sharing the screen with the questions so that we can see your faces. And then when we're ready, we'll move on question by question. Okay. First question, I'll go ahead and read it. How are you building a sense of community in person and in cyberspace or online? Who's up first? Scott, are you facilitating this?
Yes, I was going to ask the first question, but you already asked it. So I'll just restate it because I was planning on asking it. You just beat me to the punch. So teachers, I think the work that you do is phenomenal in the classrooms with our kids every day. And community is probably the number one thing that you have started to do and are continuing to do. So what are the positive ways that you are building community with your in-person and your online learners? If you're ready to answer that question, please unmute your mic and go ahead and share your ideas.
So Scott, I am using all the same tools that I always have. It's just there are fewer kids in front of me, so I can talk to them more often. So I had them do Bitmoji lockers because, you know, my daughter just got a job as an elementary teacher. So she was showing me these things. So I'm like, that's kind of fun. So I made one and they made one. So it gave me a little sense of who they are. Of course, I looked at them right at the beginning of school when I didn't know anybody's names or faces or anything like that. So my tendency is to wait a couple weeks and then look at them again and then look at them again. And I've also used that same type of idea with a Desmos activity where they could communicate, you know, some of their interests and things. So I have the background information. I just now have to kind of make it, you know, a part of what our conversations are about. But I've been still trying to get to know them. That's always a thing, you know, getting to know that many kids. But while we're talking online and in class, it's always a question and answer kind of thing. So always bringing them into the conversation. I don't really like to just Zoom out there and talk to nobody. I like to get feedback from them. So even if they can't communicate and their microphone's not working, I have them chat. Just did that today. That was awesome. Yay. Little victories.
Who else? Dina, how do you build community in your classroom?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Dawn said as well. We do the same thing. We do a lot of the getting to know you activities at the beginning of the year. And this year, with it being such a unique year, it was interesting. We originally thought it would take us longer to get to know them, but actually it was wonderful having such small groups, because I feel like I got to know my kids much more intimately, much quicker than I would have. Even though they were only there 2 days, having such a small group, I was able to talk to them more frequently one-on-one. So that was great. I know a lot of our teachers are using different student groupings, different Pear Deck, you know, different websites. We all use Zoom, of course. We all utilize breakout rooms, chat, like Dawn mentioned. You know, we're doing those things. Some of our teachers like to have a joke of the day or have fun, you know, silly hat day, that type of thing. Just anything to engage everybody and make them feel part of it. And I also believe that building community is ongoing. It's not something that's going to happen just at the beginning of the year and then stop and, you know, and we'll move on with instruction. It's a continuous thing. And the more you build that relationship and you build that community in your classroom, the better learning will take place.
Shirley, do you find the same kinds of things that our high school and middle school teachers are doing? Are you doing similar things in your elementary classroom?
Absolutely. You know, initially it was about getting to know the students, you know, and in the elementary grades, a lot of times those first few days are finding, you know, doing all about me kind of activities and slides and posters. So because we had to start school a little bit later in the calendar year, we didn't get to do as much of it as we usually did. But what we started to do was integrate it more within the curriculum that we started. In the elementary grades, we have also started a new language arts curriculum. And so embedded in that curriculum, we're doing these little mini assessments, which will help us gauge where kiddos are with vocabulary and reading comprehension and so forth. But doing these little mini assessments has also required us to work one-on-one with individual kids. So we've been able to engage that way, which is valuable, incredibly valuable. And not just finding out where they are academically, but who they are. That helps pull the parents in online. I have to be in a relationship with parents online, even more so than ever, more so than when I was in the building. That's incredibly important. I think, was it Dina talking about breakout rooms? I've started using that a lot recently, and it's so neat to see the kids coming together as a class. They're starting to get to know each other as they work on, you know, small projects, little reading comprehension or writing. They'll work together. And I always tell them, you know what, I can't see you, but I can hear you, and I'm going to pop in randomly. And it's so neat that they have their own little community going on, that they are connecting as a class, even though we're in totally different areas.
Thank you. Sarah, I know that you're also in the high school. How have you been building the community with your science students?
Yeah, a lot of my answer actually would be exactly what Dawn said. I try to bring my entire class together at the beginning of class, so that I am talking to both students in front of me and then the students who are coming in via Zoom from their homes. And I do a lot of checkpoints within my review questions that we do at the beginning of class, where I'll have students in front of me, you know, give me the thumbs up, thumbs down on their understanding. And Students who are in Zoom, I ask for basically the same sort of feedback, except for I have them type a yes or a no to give me the thumbs up, thumbs down, kind of remotely. And I also, being a science class, I have the opportunity to do a lot of lab activities, which is really great. There's the extra challenge with social distancing and shared materials, but it's actually given us this hybrid model has actually given us a really good framework to work off of, because I'm able to not only teach the lab activity and teach the chemistry that's within the lesson, but then I also get to implement a little bit of technology learning in there too, while they can have lab partners who are at home on that day and work together that way and share their ideas remotely with a person who's not in the room. And it helps to kind of bridge the gap between the half of my class that's with me that day and the other half that's home. So it gives us a little bit of a unity as a full class group.
So thank you to all the teachers who answered that first question. I guess I just want to sum up what I heard. I heard that there's been a great deal of success in the classrooms for the teachers who have provided their insight on how they're helping our children come together, how the students are coalescing, and how they're building a sense of community. That is a tremendous success, given the constraints that we have both with technology and being in school part-time or even just being online. So I congratulate all the teachers here online tonight for your success building community in the classrooms. And I'll turn it over to Kathy now, who's going to ask question number 2.
Well, I'd have to echo what Scott shared. I think it's really exciting to hear the teachers share their examples and to be able to be in classrooms and see how people have found new ways of connecting with students and building community in ways that we have never anticipated before. Many of us have been at this practice for many years, so learning and adapting to new strategies is an ongoing process and opportunity. So it's exciting to hear how people are doing that. I also love that both Dina and Shirley connected to the second question, that once we get that sense of community, the engagement flows. But I'm sure you have some tricks in your toolbox that you use to engage students. What have you found to be your go-to this year in your hybrid or your online model? Because I'm sure that's changed some too.
I know I just talked, but I personally think all of it comes down to relationship. And once you gain a positive relationship or rapport, or just a meaningful, really, it doesn't even really have to be totally positive, but a meaningful relationship or rapport with a student, the engagement comes from that. And so I like to spend, my classroom is set up in a flipped or blended learning model, is how I refer to it, which gives us a lot more time in the classroom. And it's been this way for a few years, but this year I feel like it's benefiting even more because it gives me so much more time with the students. But I really I focus on relationship first. I'm always teaching the content. We're always talking about the content, but I try to stress the individuality of each of the students and their connections to chemistry through their personal lives, so that we can have that relationship, and then the classroom part comes second in a way to me.
That makes sense.
Sarah, aside from the chemistry, you stole my answer, because I think community and engagement go together. Just like, Kathy said, I already mentioned it. If you have that sense of community, if you have that relationship with your students, they are going to be more engaged just naturally. And again, that's one of the reasons why community building is important throughout the year, because then engagement will continue throughout the year. We use a lot of the same tech tools, but there's nothing better for engagement than really a one-on-one conversation. I think some of the best opportunities we've had are personal Zooms. These Wednesdays have been awesome. I had at least 6 personal Zooms today with students. They didn't take a whole lot of time, but the students were very appreciative. The parents looking over their shoulder were appreciative, just to kind of connect with them and and explain an assignment or whatever their need was. It was just really great. So I do think that those go hand in hand.
Thanks, Tina.
So in my classroom, there's usually a lot of fear because it's math, and students are just afraid to be wrong a lot. And it's also quieter now because there are fewer kids, so they can't really get lost. So that I'm actually talking to them more than I normally would have, which obviously builds a little stronger relationship there, a little quicker than it normally would have happened. But I also just like them to talk to each other. So my go-to strategy is talk about this problem that I know that they had a hard time with, because they'll talk to each other about it more than they'll talk to me about it, because they're afraid to be wrong in front of a lot of people. So if they just compare with each other, so they're about 6 feet away, but they're reaching over and they're talking to each other, and that's just a better way. And I can hear what they're saying. So it's really a good way for me to know where they are.
Dawn, that's interesting. Your turn and talk is a strategy. I was talking with the kindergarten teachers this morning. So to hear the importance of laying that foundation and working together toward those end goals, it's exciting to hear how that continues on through the high school. And I agree, giving them an opportunity to connect with the information and each other is going to make that learning much more meaningful and authentic to them. So thank you.
Yes, I obviously agree with all that. I'm big on relationships and forming those relationships quickly in the beginning of the year, more on a one-on-one basis. I hope I'm a positive person. I think I am a positive person. I try to let that rub off on the kiddos. Hey, some of these things are going to be difficult and we've never done them before and we've never been on technology this much before, but we're going to get through. Let's do it together. So once I kind of form that one-on-one relationship, I try to form more of an inclusion relationship and pull kiddos in that tend to be more quiet. I do it very similarly to what I was doing in the actual classroom because I want the kids to feel comfortable. Even though they're home, it's school, right? For all intents and purposes, we are in school right now. And it's been a challenge and it's been difficult for many of the online teachers in elementary buildings. But, we're getting through and we just interacting with the kids has taken on a different look, but the meaning is the same. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I think those are excellent examples that echo the importance of that community and building relationships and the different strategies that teachers have tried to keep connected to their students in meaningful ways. So thank you all for your great examples.
Hi, I'm Kim, and my question is, how does homework relate to your weekly instruction? Now that you're hybrid, some of you are doing both at the same time. How does homework fit into your activities right now? I know we love the word homework, don't we? Parents out there, we all get it.
So I kind of refer to it as practice now instead of homework, just because I don't care where they do it. Homework, I would have kids that say, well, it's homework, I'm going to do it at home. It's just practice. It's practice, and we can practice anywhere we are. But it just looks different now. So it could be a Desmos activity. It could be watching an Edpuzzle and taking notes. It could be doing a flip grid. I like that when they speak the math language, because that actually gets them out there, like saying the words that they need to say. So the flip grids are good in that sense. There's also Khan Academy videos and submitting actual written work on Google Slides or in Forms or whatever. So it just looks a little bit different. And I'm still struggling with that, to be quite honest with you, to try to I want to get more stuff, because the more work I see from them, honestly, the better I know them. So that's how I get that connection for myself. So I'm right now kind of in the middle of, I want to flip it better and have them practice in front of me so that I can see them working more.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
Dawn.
think that was, oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Sarah. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say that was kind of gonna be my answer, that I don't ever refer to anything as homework. Since I've been in the flipped model for a few years now. And I've seen tremendous growth every year that I've implemented it compared to the year prior. Both when I switched to flipped off of doing direct instruction, and then as I've gotten better with implementing it, I suppose is what's happened. And I don't like them to ever think about what they do as homework, because I think that homework has this meaning to students as just being something that you just do, and it becomes less meaningful for them. Whereas thinking of something like practice, like Dawn said, that's how I leave it for them. And because my class is flipped, they, you know, I do examples with the class at the beginning of class, but they're more review examples. All of the initial introduction that they get to each new concept comes through something that they would do at home. So either watching a video of me teaching the lesson where they would take their base notes and then bring those to class, or sometimes it's a POGIL activity or some other guided inquiry learning activity that they would do on their own time, just to get like the basic understanding of the concept down. And then they'll come to class, and that's when they practice, because that's when they struggle. That's when they're going to need the assistance, and they really need somebody to be by them. And this year, especially because we only have 2 days with each student every week, it's especially more important, so that, you know, I have a 65-minute class, so I see each student 2 hours a week. And during those 2 hours, I really need those 2 hours to be the time in which they're hitting those struggle points, where I'm going to be at the front of the room and I can address each of them and talk to them together.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think that the whole concept at the high school, I know that you're doing a lot of the flipped classroom model, where you're doing videos and stuff, and then really working hand in hand directly, you know, on those in-person days is great. Dina, middle school.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I saw the discussion questions pop back up. I don't know if we're moving.
Maybe I'm done. I don't know.
Well, I'll just be very quick, just in case. I am going to kind of reiterate what Dr. Martin said as far as the quality versus quantity. We tend to review more in class, and we look at homework or practice or whatever term you want to use as an extension of the classroom. So if we are working on a concept in class and the student completes the concept or feels comfortable with the concept, then there's really no need for it at home. You know, and every content is different. Like in language arts, the best thing we feel that you can do outside of class is read a book. And that helps every content, at least we feel. So, you know, reading and just thinking about the things that we talked about in class, whether it be theme or central idea or whatever it is, will reinforce those skills. So,
thank you, Dina.
Yeah, as far as homework right now in 4th grade, you know, everything's homework online, right? Everything's homework. However, so let me say this real quick. I am hybrid, okay, but online. So many times we'll take Monday and Tuesday as an example. So from Monday to Tuesday, we may have a math extension. Maybe it's working through a page in the book, or watching a taped review of a certain skill. And then we have our offside days. So if I'm working with the kiddos Monday and Tuesday, they have the 3 days of offsite learning. So they're provided all sorts of extension activities and assignments that they can complete and share back with me. That gives me a sense of exactly where they're at. And mind you, we're not in the heaviest subjects in 4th grade yet. That's going to come pretty soon. But the offsite activities and quote unquote homework that they are required to do have been coming back in, and it looks like they're so engaged and having a good time. I love that. I love that. So right now, homework is not a bummer in 4th grade.
All right, thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
So the state of Ohio has for many years have had learning standards, and more often than not, we talk about how teachers use the learning standards to know where your kids are going, to know where they're currently at, and then where you want to take them. So going back to what we just talked about, homework, or at least the practice that our kids are doing in their classes, no matter what level, help our teachers to understand where kids are and then where the teachers want to take them. So the next question for the teachers on the panel is how are we using these common essential standards to guide your instruction as students begin to produce work for you?
I'll jump in first here. Only because I feel that this question, it doesn't matter if you're in person, if you're hybrid, if you're online. We in our district have always used the standards at our core. And we identify the standard that needs to be taught, and then we create the lesson to meet the standard and facilitate the instruction based on that. So that has not changed. Perhaps the delivery of the instruction has changed a little bit, but what the standard is has not changed. And the essential standards, as we identified, as the state has identified them, and then even as we identified them this past year, those have not changed at all.
I totally agree with Dina. It's always been what's guided us from day one. Start of the school year, we have our standards, language arts, math, even science and social studies. We have those standards. They're embedded in our lessons. As colleagues and teams meet weekly, sometimes more than weekly, that's the basis for everything, of every lesson, of every unit that we put out. Homework, practice work, however you'd like to call it, it's within each lesson and it's shown throughout every extension activity. Absolutely.
Well, in math, we are kind of in a situation where we have to get them ready for the next class, and then also make sure that they know it to be able to do it. So not just today, but in a month and in a year. So we have to make sure that we are getting rid of any garbage that is there. So the standards are literally like, this is what we're basing it on. And if a child can go further, that's fantastic. And we can add some more content in for that child. But for those that are not necessarily mathematically mature enough to handle the deeper stuff or the extra information, then they get the standards for sure. I mean, that's again always been the whole thing behind what we need to do. Like algebra is algebra, we got to get you there because you need it for geometry, and then same thing for geometry and algebra 2 trig.
Sarah?
Oh, yep. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself before I started.
Okay, I do that all the time.
I do too. Okay, so I kind of just want to piggyback off of what Don said a little bit, because we do have those set ones, and really what everybody said, I guess, for the beginning of my answer is, we have these set standards and we make sure to hit them. But I think we're really, really blessed in this district because we don't just teach to the state standards. There's always so much stretch that is included in our curriculum that I feel like when we are in a situation like this where we are limited more on time, by starting the school year a few weeks late, and then also doing the hybrid learning makes the time component a little bit more strict on us. There's so much extra that we're used to doing that while it is fantastic that we are able to work in a district where the curriculum is so rigorous, we're doing so much more than the standards. And so I don't want to say that it's easy to cut back because what we're used to doing is fantastic. But it becomes more easy to pare things down because we know that some of the things that we've been working on are above and beyond what the requirements are. And so I felt that in the science department, at least, that has been something that we've focused on, you know, what are the lessons that we do, because they're great to transition into this other class, but they're not actually part of the standard. And we're able to pare those down a little bit to make everything fit a little better.
Thank you. I think what I took away from your answers was that everyone has the same jumping point in terms of what do we want our students to learn. And the great part about that is that that's always student focused. So that when our teachers and when the teachers take a look at their standards and they know what it is that they need to teach, they are then specifically choosing those standards based on what they know about their students. So thank you for your answers. And the last question, it comes from Kathy.
So when we look at those standards, and that is the backbone of all of our work, we will come across kids in the new model that we're implementing now, online and hybrid, who aren't able to access those standards at the level we would like. In the classroom, it's easier to get to those kids, raise their hand, remediate as you go. How are you handling students who might need support in the online or hybrid model?
And as the moderator, I'm going to ask you to limit your response to 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll be quick. Here we go. Instructional support. I've got all these platforms I'm using, right, for instruction and engagement, all of that. But ultimately, that instructional support has to come through me. I'm the one that has to guide them based on their needs on whatever resource I have, whether it's extra iReady time, you name it. I've got the resource. And I'm the one that's got to figure out who needs what. But that's a part of being a teacher. I do that in the building. I do it online. How was that? 30 seconds. Good?
Good.
For me, it's been a lot of emails and one-on-one or small group Zooms during planning periods or right as the school day ends.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
So same thing for me, lots of emails. That's how they let me know that they have an issue. Then when they're in front of me, I have them right on the desks so that I can stand a little further away from them and actually see what they're doing. So they write on their desks with Expo markers, or Wednesdays on Zoom are always good. I throw them into breakout rooms so that they can work, and I bring them back individually.
Great.
Am I allowed to just say ditto? We're all repeating the same thing. I'm not trying to get out of answering the question, but it's all the same. The only thing I would add, and I won't go over my 30 seconds, I promise, Mr. Moderator, is our guidance department at the middle school is so awesome, and they do offer a lot of not only instructional support, but just support, SEL support that's so important, especially now. So, so kudos to that too. They have services and special Zooms, and they support the kids and us, and then we can support them.
Awesome. Thank you all. You did such a phenomenal job. That was, so rich and meaningful. I could listen to you like all night. We do have to move on to our question and answering session. These are questions that were submitted through a Google form survey, and Joelle and I are going to try our best to answer them. Joelle, I can read them. I can put you in the hot seat. You're on the Brady Bunch. You're right in the middle, so this is going to work out perfectly. I'm just going to go ahead and read the first question, if that's okay.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about some expectations before we get.
Got it.
And so, we've engaged in this platform of learning of hybrid and online. And, again, it's something that we've never done before, and there's no playbook for it. We're developing a playbook as we're doing it. And I think that our teachers are rock stars. And you just heard from a bunch of our teachers who are absolute rock stars and are doing just a fantastic job with our kids. And so I really appreciate all of you, and to Kim and to Kathy and to Scott. My goodness, I don't know if we'd even be where we are today without you. So thank you for everything that you've done. But I want to talk about expectations that our parents have. I think that there's, a lot of the emails that I receive or that we talk about, they say, these kids in this hybrid, they're expected to do a lot of learning on their own, and it's not the same as what they're getting in class. And our whole goal this whole time is to try to make these two platforms equitable as possible. And, they're not equitable. And so we're trying our best to get to a place where that can be. And what I mean by that is, I think that there's an expectation that parents feel that when kids are sitting in class and they're in a brick and mortar, that they're being taught for 7 hours straight. And the reality is that's not the case. They are being taught kind of how we're delivering the model right now, meaning that there are these small bits of instruction. The kids then sit in the classroom and have some, guided practice. So they work independently. And then there might be an exit slip to test for understanding before they walk out of class. But for parents to think that when your kids are at school for 7 hours, they're getting 7 hours of direct instruction is just not the case. And so when you're at home and online and you see these small bits, you might say to yourself, well, my kid isn't getting what the kids in person are. The reality is they are. It just looks a little bit different because the kids are out of your sight for 7 hours. It doesn't mean that they're engaging in 7 hours of direct instruction. So, I think that's just kind of a mind shift thing. The other thing I want to make sure that our parents understand is that, right now that you're in a hybrid and you're able to peek into your kid's classroom and see what's going on. And parents talk and they say, well, my teacher's doing it this way and my teacher's doing it that way. And I want to caution parents to say, teachers have always done things differently. And different is good. We all have those common core standards. We all have the same expectations for our kids, but the art of teaching takes over in the classroom, and the art of teaching is what makes our teachers great. They have a different way of getting kids to the same point. And so now that parents can see it, they say, well, my child's teacher isn't doing it this way, but this teacher is doing it that way. That's okay. It's okay for teachers to get to the same common goal in different ways through the art of teaching and through that relationship building that you've heard our teachers talk about. And so when we're looking at what one child is doing with one teacher versus what one child is doing, that's always happened. That is the beauty of teaching. And that is what goes on in the classroom, regardless of whether you can see it online. And so we need to be very careful when we're comparing about what is going on and what's not going on. The expectations should be the same, but how teachers individually get to those expectations needs to be left to the art of teaching and what those teachers are good at and how they get their kids to perform for them. So I just want to say that up front as we move on through some of these questions. Some of them, Dave, I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of condense some of these because I think some of them are good. We just got out of a board meeting. I don't know how many of you were in tune to the board meeting to talk about, whether or not we come back sooner than later in a 5-day fashion. And the decision was that, yes, we are going to come back 5 days a week. There will be a full 5-day remote option for parents who do not feel comfortable with that option. We will look at doing this on October 26th, which is the end of the first 9 weeks. And so we will make an opportunity of kind of like an open enrollment period, kind of like what you would do for health insurance, where every family, regardless of what model you chose to start the school year in, will have the opportunity to change if they don't want to stay in that model. So for example, we had families that had started in hybrid and said, Ms. Magyar, I'm comfortable with 2 days a week. I'm not comfortable with my child attending 5 days a week. You will have the option to go to remote. We have some families that are remote that said, what, I don't know if this is working out exactly how I thought it would work. I'd like to go 5 days. So there'll be an open enrollment period coming soon from each building to determine if people want to switch. But in either case, whether your children choose to attend 5 days in person or they stay online, they will have 5 days of instruction. And again, just to keep that expectation, just know that when your children are here 5 days a week doesn't mean they're engaging in 7 hours of instruction. So your online kids may have times of independent work, have some asynchronous projects that they're working on during that time that all count towards those instructional minutes that we had highlighted in our plan. So you can set expectations. The expectations that are in the plan in terms of timing, if we say your child gets 60 to 90 minutes of language arts, that is for your typical child. So the amount of work that is being given, that would be the amount of time it would take a typical child. If you have a child who has some special needs on either end of the spectrum, both special needs or might be gifted, that time is average for a typical child. It may take your child longer to do that kind of work. And if you have a child that's gifted, they may finish that work much sooner than that allotted time or those expectations that we put in our plan. So it's important for parents to understand that just as pacing is different, so is learning and understanding and building that understanding with kids. Kids understand sooner, some kids understand later, and that's all okay. So while some kids may feel very overwhelmed by the amount of work that they're experiencing at home or in the classroom on a regular day, we're going to experience, and kids are going to have that same struggle if they're in a remote. And it's our job as educators to support those learners, regardless if they're sitting in front of us or they are online. And so again, just setting some expectations. And again, I love what our teacher said about homework. And I won't get on my soapbox about homework at all, but homework should be an extension of practice. It shouldn't be that children are learning something new for homework. We have lots of families where English is not the first language spoken at home, so there isn't a built-in support system for many of our families. So we have to make sure that the homework that we are giving our students, it's something that they can do on their own, independent practice. So I love that we're calling it, practice, because that's exactly how homework should be designed, and or any long-term projects that teachers may assign to kids, working in little bits on that project. And again, to build a child's sense of schedule. And how do we develop that sense of schedule? To give them a project that said, this isn't due for 5 weeks. You know as well as I do, some of those kids are going to have that project done in a week, and others are going to take every bit of those 5 weeks. And that's okay. That's what we try to plan for, is that self-pacing. It's one of those soft skills that we're trying to develop with our kids too, whether they're in school or they're outside of school. We had some questions. Dave, I'm just going on here. So
No, you are a great condenser. Go
Okay.
for it.
All right.
You're
So
single-handedly answering, and this is great.
I am. So we talked about if the kids are in one model, can they switch to the other model when we go back on the 26th? And the answer is yes. And if we return, there was a specific question about middle school. Will kids have different teachers? The way we set up our middle school and our high school plans is that we ran those kids' schedules. So if they choose to return, they're going to come back to the same teachers that are live streaming them. We do not have situations where one group of kids has one teacher on Monday, Tuesday, and another on Thursday, Friday. We specifically did our hybrid model that way so that when the kids did come together, because we knew that was going to happen, whether it was the 26th or some point later on in the year, they were going to come back together. And it was very important that those teachers maintain those relationships. So they have half of a class Monday, Tuesday, and they have half of that same class on Thursday, Friday. So when those kids come back together, it will be with the same teacher in those classrooms. So they have the one full class. And again, just more questions about asking about the online. If kids choose to stay, will it be 5 days of instruction? Yes, it will be 5 days of instruction. Kindergarten is another question that people ask, like, what will kindergarten look like? And while we did not address that specifically at the meeting today, at the board meeting, what I had, part of my recommendation to the board was that we offer full day kindergarten for all. We have to, by law, allow for a half day program. So if parents don't want their children to engage in that full day program, they do have the capability of picking them up during that half day, and that would be available at all the buildings. Again, more details to follow as we roll out our plan to go back to a 5 day plan here on October 26th. So I think I hit most of them. Dave, jump in if
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, you did a great job. Way to go. So I am going to finish this up with what I think is a very powerful couple of slides. And of course, going with our theme of bicycling. If we all individually ride unicycles, will we maximize learning for our students? However, if we all ride in tandem, we will maximize learning for our students. BBH-CSD families, students, friends, community members, thank you so much for joining us in our Learning and Leading Town Hall. We greatly appreciate your input. We hope that you got something out of this. Teachers, coaches, Superintendent Magyar, thank you so much for making this possible. Have a wonderful night, and we are right on schedule, 6:59. Thanks, everyone.